Hi guys, it's your Christian boy Joy. As I'm Christian and yes, I read a BL. Today I'm gonna be talking about two characters that I found similar to each other. Rail from Titan's Bride, written by Itokazu, also known as ITKZ, and Azaniel from Diador, written by Pluto. If you haven't read these stories but you are interested in this video, it is full of spoilers, so you have been warned. Now, why am I gonna compare these two characters? Simple, they were the same. These two characters are the same. Now, I have been warned not to do this, but I am gonna do it anyway because for the fun of it and I'm enjoying it. So I'm comparing Azaniel and Rail. Now, let me start with the similarities. What's so similar about these two characters? Number one, they're both very old. Two, they're non-human. They're both magical beings. Azaniel is a unicorn and Rail is an elf. And three, they both have supernatural buff boyfriends. Four, they both researching about sex. So yeah, they're pretty much the same and they're very effeminate. They're very much effeminate. So yeah, they're pretty much the same character. But if they're the same character, then why does Azaniel annoy the living crap out of me, but Rail is my favorite character? It's how the story wrote them in their stories that made me not like Azaniel but love Rail. Now, let me begin with Azaniel. Now, Azaniel, his initial characterization was he's a unicorn who's protective towards humans. You see, we see him trying to stop Metatron from causing chaos. And we also see him trying to stop Ben when Ben was being rough on Jin Yang, indicating that Azaniel is protective towards humans. So you have a character who's protective towards humans, who is a warrior, and is very dedicated at his job at protecting humans. We see that when he's trying to stop Metatron. So what went wrong? One chapter. One chapter. And this chapter is also similar to Titan's Bride's chapter. They're very similar. But why does this chapter work on Titan's Bride, whereas it doesn't work on Diador? This chapter is 118 in Diador. Now, why did this chapter ruin Azaniel? Like the story, it provided inconsistency in Azaniel's characterization. That's why. Like the story just indicated that Azaniel is protective towards humans. If you don't know what's happening on chapter 118, Azaniel asks Jinya if he could observe Ben and Jin Yang having sex so that he could see the door procedure. But then here's the thing. Once Ben sleeps with Ben, Jin Yang's soul will shatter and he will die according to the lore of Diador, right? Something this damn story forgot about is that his soul will shatter and die. And then it makes me question, why would an angel that is protective towards humans would want to observe a procedure that has such devastating consequences on a human soul? Like why? And then he proceeds on and then he imagines it doing it, which makes me question, did the story forget that this is a problem to humans? Like, didn't you just indicate that this guy is protective towards humans? Why would he want to observe a procedure that resembles slavery? And why would he want to observe a procedure that will kill a fellow human? Inconsistent writing. And let's talk about his sex research. Why I didn't like his sex research because it's just an excuse for fetishization. It's just an excuse for sex scenes. Because that sex research, I know it's in the side stories, but they don't really add anything to the story. And that's the main problem with this character. Majority of the time, he's just about sex. He doesn't really, and his sex doesn't really add anything to the story other than to have sex scenes in the story. He's just a fetish character who has little to no impact on the overall plot, whose main goal was to be Ben's love interest. I think that was why he was created by the author, because the only impact he did was delivering Jin Yang to Kyang-jun, and that was it. Majority of the time, he was created to be Ben's love interest. You know, so if Rail and Azaniel are the same characters, then why do you love Rail? I'll tell you why. Now, Rail is a subversion of Azaniel. What do I mean by that? Because when it comes to Rail, his sex knowledge is beneficial to characters, to other characters. He helps people using his sex knowledge, people who are suffering with problems. Ben and Jin Yang are not really suffering their problems other than Jin Yang being a door. So it makes no sense why Azaniel would entertain a problem, whereas he's a holy angel. Why would he entertain a problem? Whereas Rail uses his sex knowledge to help other characters, which makes it work. For example, chapter 51 and 51 to 53, the chapters that are similar to chapter 118, we see Rail asking Caius and Koichi if he could observe them having sex. Why? Because Caius and Koichi are having sex problems. That's why. He's asking them so that he could help them, so that he could see what's the problem, so that he could properly understand how to help them. So Rail becomes beneficial because once he observes them having sex, it's going to give them a solution, something that will benefit Caius, something that will benefit the characters, you know? And it does. And guess what? He actually knows the measures of how they can have a happy sex life. And that's not only it, but he also discovered something that the characters did not even know about themselves, that Koichi has access to Caius's magic. Something that they did, Caius, our main characters, Caius and Koichi, didn't know at all. As a result, he becomes a very important character. And that's not the only time his sex knowledge becomes relevant in the story. That's the thing. Rail's sex knowledge, sex research is relevant to the story, whereas Azaniel's sex research is made for the sake of having sex scenes. Whereas Rail's sex research is reliable. It's reliable in the story. It's beneficial to other characters, which is the point of a research, general research. It's for it to be valuable, it's for it to be valid and reliable. Now, Koichi in chapter 75 and onwards, he's given a task to help an egg to hatch. There's a baby inside the egg, a baby that has wings. It's a bad baby. It needs to hatch, but it hasn't hatched for a year. So what do? Rail assists him using his sex knowledge about other tribes of Titan's Bride. His sex knowledge once again becomes relevant in the entire story. His sex research becomes relevant. We see him teaching Koichi about the sex lives of the Bad Tribe and the procedure of pregnancy, how it works, and how babies are born. Why? Because his sex knowledge becomes beneficial in the story. And it's not the only time we see Rail being beneficial to a character. We saw him being beneficial to Caius as well because he also helps him with his political stuff, helping him to win the people over. We see him helping him with economics, which means that sex isn't the only thing with Rail, that is also very good at economics, that he's very well knowledgeable when it comes to economics, because we see him helping Caius negotiate in terms of trades with other bad tribes, with other titans. Yeah, so Rail becomes a very important character and he actually helps the plot to progress. That's what makes Rail such a special character and why I love him so much, even though the writing of Titan's Bride can be questionable at times, especially since the author prioritizes sex scenes more than plot progression. But I think she knocked it out of the park when writing Rail because the guy helps the plot to progress and he's very beneficial to the story as he's very helpful to our main characters. Yeah, so Rail is an important character because he's beneficial. He has a massive impact on the plot. He helped Koichi discover that he has magic in him. He helped Koichi and Kaius to have a better sex life. He's guiding Koichi to help a magical egg hatch, something that is relevant to the plot and that will benefit other kingdoms. And he's also helping Caius with his trade. So yeah, Rail is very important, which is why I love Rail, even though he's very similar to Azaniel, and his sex research becomes relevant to the story. So, in my conclusion, I love Rail because he's beneficial to the story. The guy is sure he can be a perv at times, just like Azaniel, but at least we see results when it comes to Rail. We see results that are beneficial to other characters, whereas Azaniel was just a love interest to Ben who had little impact on the plot, little to no impact on the plot, on the overall plot. So yeah, that's why I love Rail, and that's why I kinda despise Azaniel. And I think this will be my last video talking about Theodore. I just want to move on from this story. I'm gonna be talking about other stuff, probably Attack on Titan, since it's finished now. I'm gonna rewatch it, the whole thing. I'm currently watching Revolutionary Girl Utana. I'm gonna do a video on that, so stay tuned. And I'm also reading Taming the Tiger, also known as Ice Clouded by the Tiger, a story I dropped, but I picked it up again. And so far it's good, but the ending could mean something else. I either enjoy it or I don't enjoy it. Anyway, stay tuned. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and ring that notification bell. Bye.